wastewater treatment plant. So however you want to arrange that. That way Steve doesn't have to listen to the whole meeting, and then Brad can go off once he is done with his report.
Okay, I'll do that.
And you are good to go, Wade. You're streaming and recording.
All right, this is Service Committee, January 15th, 2021, getting started at 6 o'clock. So we got a call to order and do a roll call. Brian?
Cosgray.
Present.
Foreman.
Present.
McCreary.
Excused.
Yeah, she'll be excused absent, ill. She contacted me over the weekend.
So we have also in attendance, we've got the mayor, the village administrator, fiscal officer, Chief Tussey, got Mr. Mike Hamilton, Barb. We've got Chuck Keller, Rick. Well, yeah, he's here. And then we've got guest Steve Cothrell and Brad from the wastewater treatment plant. So can I get a approval of the minutes from November the 23rd, last meeting?
Yeah, Wade, I looked them over. Everything looked okay to me. I make a motion we approve the minutes as written.
Okay, I guess I'll second that. Got a roll call, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, approved. So visitors, we'll start out with the Baltimore Downtown Revitalization. Mr. Steve Cothrell, if you have something, we'll give you the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, members of council and everyone else. I'm Steve Cothrell. I'm the director of the Baltimore Downtown Restoration Committee, commonly known as the BDRC, and I just appreciate this opportunity tonight to give you a quick review of where we were in 2020 and a little preview of what's going to be happening with any luck in 2021. Terry, have they seen the written reports that we prepared, or I don't want to go into too much detail if they already have.
Both of your reports were attached to the email. So they have both your year from last year and your proposed year activities.
All right, thank you. Well, I won't go into too much detail, but please, if you have any questions, feel free to jump in. But you know, we are an organization, a nonprofit run by volunteers, and we do a lot of events and programs throughout the year. And obviously, the pandemic threw a real monkey wrench into that for 2020. But we took advantage of those opportunities to kind of do some house cleaning administratively, to clean up some documents and prepare for when we can resume more normal activities. So we were really disappointed to first postpone and then cancel most of our events, but we did get a few things in. We did adopt a new mission and vision statement. They're not dramatically different from what we had before, but that was part of our administrative review. Our children's theater, the Victoria Players, did do several virtual productions toward the end of 2020. Including some Christmas duets to wrap up the year. So I think they just did an amazing job of pivoting to a virtual situation, given that rehearsals and performances were just not possible in person this year. At the Opera House, we continue to do some renovations. Probably the biggest or most noticeable thing this year was the new seats put in the auditorium. Those were a gift to us from Studio 35, a movie theater in Clintonville up in Columbus. We also patched a big hole in the balcony floor that was kind of an ankle breaker, just using some salvaged lumber from elsewhere in the Opera House. The nice thing about the new seats in the auditorium is that they can be moved around for flexible seating arrangements. The window replacement remains an important goal for us, but I just received notice last week from Senator Schaefer's office that request was not funded for 2021 state capital budget. They did leave the door open to try to bring that back in a future year, but obviously the state is dealing with a lot of challenges as well this year. Ken Maugers, the chair of our flag and Christmas decoration committee, he has continued to do a lot of work on getting the flags up, keeping them in shape, getting them down and stored for the winter. And he has, I'll touch on his plans for 2021 here in a minute. The farmers market was one of the things we could hold this year. That was outdoors, and we encouraged people to wear masks and maintain social distancing. And all in all, I think it went very well. Lots of people came every week. I think they were just grateful to have something they could do to get out of the house and see other people in a reasonably safe manner. The merchants also seem to be very pleased. And of course, we owe Ace Hardware a huge thank you for hosting that for us. That site really does work out well. We partnered with the museum to plant a couple trees this fall for Arbor Day, and we'll be partnering with the Tree Commission on some other work coming up. Some of our other events, like the Mommy and Me Tea, had to go virtual. We did end the year with a gingerbread house decorating contest that worked out well. We got a lot of interest and had a lot of fun with that. Our website is new. If you haven't looked at it lately, I encourage you to take a look. Jill Henwood has done a marvelous job rehabbing that. The yard sales, another outdoor socially distanced event that we did do in 2020. We don't really do much for that except pick a date and promote it. But it's always something that folks look forward to and lots of people participate in. We reimagined our trick or treat through the Opera House by just having them come to the front steps and sending candy down long chutes into their bags. So it was a lot of fun. A lot of people came out for trick or treat, but we didn't get them into the Opera House to see what a gem we have in there. We did get a bus full of folks in from Visit Fairfield County earlier in the year. It's not a huge group, so again, they were able to maintain social distancing, but they toured the whole Baltimore area, a lot of highlights, and the Opera House was, I think, their first stop on that tour. And then finally, we have just revised all of our membership programming. We're offering some really cool premiums for members now, like tote bags and pins. So there's a lot more info on that on the website. And if you are interested in learning more, please let me know. But we are, in the absence of event revenue, really hopeful that membership revenue will get us through the first part of 2021 until we can resume more normal events. As far as 2021 goes, we're already underway with some things, including our membership drive. If you use social media and follow any of our pages there, you'll see more about that in the coming weeks. The Flag and Christmas Decoration Committee has a new fundraising initiative underway for Christmas decorations. I think most of us probably are aware. People notice that there's not a whole lot left working in good working order. So we're committing to trying to raise money to enable the village to purchase some more newer decorations. And Ken is leading that effort, and he has procured some matching funds. So again, look for that on social media and elsewhere in the coming weeks. We're hopeful we can raise some money and be able to have a little more holiday cheer by next December. The farmers market will be back. We have Emily Badgett running that now out at Ace Hardware, and she and her committee are already making plans for the 2021 season. So that'll be something that we do conduct fairly normally for 2021. We'll again pick a date and promote the yard sale when that comes up in June. The Victoria Players are doing another virtual production later this spring. They're trying to let the dust kind of settle with all the uncertainty around schools right now, but then they'll get back to a virtual production. And the one that they did last year actually got thousands of views on YouTube. It was a certified virtual hit. We'll keep working on the Opera House. We may have to do some work on some windows just to keep the glass from falling out. And we are also concerned about the roof. We can't really do much more to rehab the top floor until we can resolve the leak issues up there. But as far as the auditorium space goes, it's very presentable, and we're going to be, as soon as pandemic permits, going to be pushing that as a rental venue for weddings, parties, reunions, meetings, whatever else people can imagine in that space. And as far as the events we typically host there, like Trick or Treat and the craft beer tasting and others, we're just going to have to be patient and see what the pandemic allows us to do safely, because we're not going to try to rush anything if we don't feel it's safe. So that's unfortunate, but we do hope there's light at the end of the tunnel there. So with that, I will wrap up. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to field them. But we greatly appreciate council and the village's support with what we've been doing. And, when we're allowed to hold events again, I hope the community will take advantage. I think lots of folks get a lot of fun out of them.
Steve, I want to pipe in and say on the Christmas decorations, at the last council meeting, I read a letter from an 11-year-old that lives just outside the village that wrote during the holidays, talking about how disappointing it was that we only have the lights at the main intersections now, and wish that they would come back. So you are correct; they are noticed. So I'll get with Ken to talk about what he's doing there and see what we can do. So. But just thought I'd pass that along too.
Yeah, that's not.
We did get a letter from a resident.
And Ken has been a little bit secretive about his matching funds and all this. So he's a guy who can get stuff done, but I don't have a lot of details on how that's going to work yet.
All right. Well, I'll check in with Ken. I see him every now and then. So.
Okay.
All right, Steve, thank you for all the good work that you've been doing, and the group, the BDRC. We really appreciate that. And does anybody have any other questions for Mr. Steve? Okay, with that.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah,
Thank you,
we'll
Mr. Chair.
give you a hearty thank you from everybody. And with that, we'll let you go, Mr. Steve. And we'll move on to village departments. I think Brad's got something he needs to let us know about. So go ahead.
Right. Brad's here tonight because we have experienced an issue at the wastewater treatment plant that he's been working on with numerous the engineers from both the membranes and both B3. So I asked him to attend tonight to talk a little bit about what's happening and what his timeline is. So go ahead, Brad, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, like Terry said, we're experiencing some issues out there. It's regarding our thickness and sludge in our tanks. I'll start off with back in November 4th, we did our typical sludge pumping. We opened up some bags, started pumping sludge, trying to get caught up for the winter time, trying to get our solids down in the plant, trying to get the sludge tank down, digesters hopefully down. That was November 4th, and that went on for a couple weeks. And around Thanksgiving, the week of Thanksgiving, we noticed our aeration tanks were starting to thicken up. And then we noticed our trains were shutting down from a TMP low, which is train membrane pressure. So what happens is when there's too much pressure on the membranes, there's an alarm or sensor that will shut the membrane down to prevent it from basically hurting itself or damaging itself. So we started noticing that. We thought that was a little strange. But then we also we typically don't pump our waste, I guess, our sludge when we're pumping into a bag, because it's easier to measure how much we put in the bag. So we kind of thought, okay, maybe that's why they're shutting down, because they're starting to thicken up. And because we're not wasting like we normally do. So we ran what we call a centrifuge spin. Typically, when we run a spin, we like to be around 9 to 11. That's about a 1% solids. We were at about a 17, which before we were actually around a 14 or 15 just because of all the work we've done with the membranes. And when we took those apart, there was a lot of sludge that fell down into those tanks from the membranes being replaced. So we weren't really, too shocked. So we were like, okay, we'll, keep wasting, trying to get this down, pumping some sludge. That went on for a little while. And then around December, it was December 21st, the week of Christmas. Our sludge had not gotten any better. So we were kind of scratching our heads on that. So we decided we were going to run our membrane 1 through a recovery clean, which it was due for recovery clean. And that's when you take the tank completely down, fill it with clean water, and then you put sodium hypochlorite or chlorine into it and let it sit for 24 or 48 hours. Well, I took it another step, and I pumped the tank down. I let it sit in clean water and aerate for 24 hours. Then I pumped that back down and put clean water back in, and then put sodium hypochlorite and let that sit for 24 hours. And it seemed to help the membranes for a little while, but then we noticed that it was starting to lower its GPM because of the thickness of our aeration. So I did contact Jack Jones from Suez, and I explained to him what we were experiencing. I was, more concerned about the membranes, and he said he has seen this before. Basically, once you get your solids down, then you'll be able to run through it clean, and you keep your solids down, they'll be back to normal. So that was the good news on the membranes. And I have seen that after we've done some cleans, they do run a lot better, but then getting the sludge out is the key part. So when we did do that clean and they plugged off again, we ran another spin, and we were up to a 23 spin, which is roughly 2% solids. That's quite a bit higher than what we would like to see. That's about 0.5% or maybe a whole percent higher than what we would like. So we considered the fact that we were pumping sludge, we weren't wasting. We also had a diffuser in the sludge tank that was broken while we were pumping sludge. So we decided to keep pumping sludge. And when you try to get down to those diffusers in the sludge tank, it's a long process because you're trying to get a lot of the gritty stuff out of the bottom, and you're trying to pump that way down. It's really thick. And then once we got down there, then we had to see what was broke, then we had to order it, and then we had to fix it. So you're looking at possibly, it was around, I'd say over about a month that we weren't wasting. So we weren't too surprised that our solids were getting thicker, but what really was the issue was that we were then, after we fixed that, we were wasting, and it wasn't getting any better. So we were kind of scratching our heads on that. But around that time was when I had to be quarantined for COVID. So I was then gone out of the plant. I kept in contact over the phone with Tom, and he was saying that the membranes and stuff were shutting down, and he had to keep lowering the GPM. And I, was kind of, working our way through the week there, trying to figure out, limp it along. And then when I got in on the January 11th, I came in and I was actually able to see how thick things really were. And then I ran a spin, and it was about a 3% solids. That was very concerning to us. So we went back and we looked at all of our data from our influent, and we looked at even Greif and everything. Nothing pointed to an outside source for us. So we immediately thought it was internal. Our influent never changed. Our effluent really didn't change at all either. So we thought it was internal, that Tom thought that it denitrified. So basically, the nitrogen gassed off, or the ammonia to nitrate to nitrite, or nitrite to nitrate to nitrogen gas, and it gassed off, and it basically made everything float up, and it brought all the stuff from the bottom that was settled and lifted it up, and that's what started to make everything so thick. That's what Tom thought, because there was nothing pointing to an outside source for us. So we contacted Metropolitan Environmental Services and to see if we can get a belt press in there, because we believe that we were behind on sludge, didn't realize we were behind on sludge. So we contacted them. Chris came out, took a look at everything, and said that we are okay to set up, but their issue is with it being wintertime and the press being outside, the pipes on the belt press freezing and stuff like that, and they'd have to tear everything down every day to be able to do that. So we ordered 2 new sludge bags, and we are waiting on polymer. Our sludge bags just came in Thursday. We are going to work the bags until the weather warms up, try to get our plant thinned down, and then bring in the belt press when the weather turns, and try to get our sludge tank and our extra sludge holding tanks, our digesters, down just to get ourselves caught up. So that's the plan for that. And then after that happened, last week I got the results from Greif Brothers December results, and we saw the very first high BOD from them on the 17th of December, and then they had a lab error on the 24th of December, so you can't really rule that a high BOD, but I would imagine that that would be a high BOD. And we then that very same day got our results for January 13th and 14th, and those were the first 2 high BODs that we saw from our influent. So this entire time that we're trying to figure this out, there was no indication that there was high BOD coming from them until the 17th. So I talked to Brian Coughlin, and I explained the situation, and I gave him the timeline. I gave him our MassEye results from October when they started to now. I gave him their results from October to now. And he said that on the phone that it wasn't necessarily them, that it's not helping. He said, it sounds like you had a lot of irons in the fire, that it's hard to pinpoint exactly who or what was happening, or, what was the culprit. So we are meeting with him tomorrow to go over all of this stuff to see what we need to do in the future. When I talked to him over the phone, he said, it sounds like that we're just going to have to probably adjust our sludge program, basically, our sludge wasting. And you might have to, maybe haul some more sludge than usual, which we didn't necessarily, didn't surprise us, because we already had in our plans to add a sludge tank. But what shocked us was that how fast it happened. But like he said, we had a lot of irons in the fire. That could be why it happened so fast, because we weren't wasting. We had diffusers down, and we had a temperature change, which also affects your BOD. And then they started sending us a higher BOD than what we've normally seen. So that's where we're at with that. So we do have a plan right now to get our polymer in and start pumping into the bags to try to thin this down.
And also, Brad, did you also state that you increase your air in the aeration?
Oh, yes. Yes. I'm sorry. Yes. Friday we were looking, and our aeration was looking a little darker than usual. So, excuse me. So we, me and Tom went out. We were testing our DO, and it did seem to drop quite a bit. So we increased our air for over the weekend, and when we came out today, our DO increased twice as much. So that was a good sign. Our membranes they're not running at the GPM that they should be, but they are running better than what they were a week or two ago. So we're working on getting the right steps forward. And I think when we start getting our bags pumping, that we should start seeing a little bit better result. But like I said, I sent all this to Brian Coughlin with V3, and we have a meeting with him tomorrow. So we will see what he has to say.
I know that was a lot. So it's a
Yeah.
lot to understand because it's a very complicated process. But I think the most important thing here is to understand that the bugs are okay, they're not dead. And that the process is just evolved into a different process than we had before. Brian has told us that one of the things that is characteristic of waste, of paperboard waste, is that the sludge is more thicker. So because of
It's more of a synthetic BOD.
yes.
So it's going to, if I remember correctly, how he told me that was, it's a synthetic BOD. So more than likely, our wasting will have to go up. And he didn't necessarily seem surprised that we were having to make these adjustments, but he was a little bit surprised at how quick it happened.
Yes.
But then when I gave him the timeline of everything that's happening, he says it sounded like you had just had a lot of irons in the fire, and that just was bad timing for everything. I said, well, it seems to be that way because we were having issues a month before they ever sent us Gripe ever sent us a high BOD.
Right.
So I think it was just a 1-2 punch from scenarios, and it we knew we were going to have to make some adjustments, which is why we put in to do an extra sludge tank, but we were just caught a little off guard as to how fast it happened. So I've contacted Gripe and asked them to send us their results weekly rather than at the end of the month. So that way we have more of a quicker update on their effluent come to us, and that might give us a little bit better idea on what they're sending to us rather than waiting until the end of the month. Give us an idea of what's happening.
I got a question. You said BOD.
BOD. BOD.
Yeah,
biological oxygen demand.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Question.
I'll know. We will know a little bit more tomorrow when we talk to Brian Coughlin, because he did mention it being a different type of BOD. He said your milligrams per liter may be the same, but he said with it being a different type of BOD, he said there might be a little bit of change in your process as far as, like I said, wasting more often and keeping our air up. So if that's what we have to do, then we may have to increase our sludge holding tank. We're adding a sludge holding tank and our sludge drying beds. Maybe make those a little bit bigger so we can hold more sludge. So
the stuff coming from the mill has a higher BOD than the stuff that's coming from the homes.
it is right now. As of December 17th, when he sent me that result. Everything before that was pretty much the same. I have the results from October 7th and 8th. They were sending us a 14 and a 12 BOD, which is great. That's pretty much nothing. And then I have on October 20th, they sent us a 5 BOD. And, a 4.5 BOD. All this is all through October. And then November, they sent us an 8 BOD. So we had no reason to believe that this was, coming from them at the time until we got the results from December last week.
Okay.
So, this entire time we thought it was internal because there was absolutely no evidence pointing to an outside source, because our influent BOD never changed, and their influent BOD was staying within our normal range until December 7th.
Is there something they can do in pre-treatment before they send it to us so that they can make sure that it's
I had a question. When did they start discharging, and what's their limit on their BOD? I mean, I know we had EPA regulations that limited their BOD.
Well,
Or just-
when I look back through that, the limit was 250 milligrams per liter, and anything over that was 40 cents per pound loading. The loading rate was 40 cents per pound. So I looked back through that, and I didn't see anything that said that it had to stay under, but anything over 250 milligram per liter, they were going to be charged for that. So, and then to answer your other question, they started, it was September 28th, 29th. They were
Correct.
doing some soft starts, and then October 1st was when they'd send us basically their full, they let it run all day. So that's when it started, their flow. That is.
When they measure their BOD, are they able to, like, is it a constant measurement, or are they allowed to pick and choose when they measure? Like before you flush the toilet, it's clean, but after, once you've used the toilet, it's not. Are they able to choose when and how they check it?
Yeah, well, based off of their permit, they're checking it once a week right now. And it is, once a week. They started doing it twice a week at the beginning. But no, as far as doing it daily, it's constant read. No, they can't do that because that's a 5-day test result. So say you collect your sample on Monday and run it Monday, it'll be 5 days later before you get your result. That's the only problem with the BOD and the CBOD testing.
But couldn't you be sure that it was going to be clean when you needed to test and not when it wasn't?
I don't know what you mean by that.
Well, I don't think the problem is Greif picking and choosing when they do it. It just seems to be a different, and sometimes it happens, and we're getting discharged. Or maybe they were running a plant cleaning or something during a particular week. We don't know. I don't think they're would pick and choose.
Yeah. Well, typically, it should be weekly. Based off of this right here, I believe it is weekly, so they sample it once a week. I do know that in the wintertime, your BOD, your bugs are less active in the wintertime, so your BOD goes up typically. So that is part of, I guess that could be part of the problem as well. But yeah, as far as they could take a sample, I guess, every single day, but you're not going to know until 5 or 6 days later after you collected that sample what that reading is. And by then, that's probably already gone through the plant and down the creek.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, isn't there a way that we can set it up so they don't know which sample we're going to use or what day it was taken, instead of letting them decide, okay, we're going to get everything clean, then we're going to take a sample, where if they took it every day, we're going to test this.
I mean, are you suggesting, Rick, that they're not being totally honest in their sampling and picking and choosing when to do it?
I've had a very smart person tell me that will absolutely positively happen.
Okay, who's your smart person?
Well, I will say
if we're going to make that accusation on a
he used to operate the
recorded,
plant. He used to operate their plant. I'm not going to name his name.
Well, then I'm not going to consider that as an option for Greif unless I have some source that
I'm not saying they're
I'm not going to make that accusation.
I'm not going to make that accusation either. I'm just saying that's the prudent thing to do from our perspective. Maybe this person is completely honest, but the next operator may not be. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I'm just saying that for future operators down the road, wouldn't it be more prudent for the sample that we test to be random or unplanned?
Oh, okay.
I'm not making an accusation. I'm just saying that there's that ability to plan for everything to be clean when they take the test.
Okay, Rick.
Maybe they're not, maybe they are.
Okay, so one of the things that Brad, you need to tell Rick is how the testing is done. We don't grab BOD samples. Do you want to explain that?
No, we haven't done that because we saw no reason to spend the money on going over there when everything was fine. We had no issues with our plant. Like I said, our influent coming in was fine. We had absolutely no reason to believe that. What they were sending us the first couple months was fine. So, I guess moving forward, maybe we do go ahead and randomly do our own testing for a little while to see how it goes. I do see what you're saying though, Rick, as far as getting the proper sample in a way, like making sure it's going to be passable or under a limit. I do see what you're saying. So, but if that's the case, then they definitely messed up on December 17th and the 24th. I will say, because that's pretty high.
Yeah, and that's all I'm saying is,
Yeah.
if they've just pulled the sample every day, don't test it every day, but we just walk in and randomly pick the one we want to get tested, they don't know which one we're going to get picked,
Well,
and then they have
with
it
the
tested, then that eliminates that ability to try and game the system. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I'm saying that from our perspective, it makes sense to do it in a manner like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, the only problem with that is that a BOD test will only hold for 24 hours, I believe. I know a CBOD test will hold for 24 hours. I do believe a BOD test holds for 24 hours as well. So once you grab it, it has to be sent out the very next day.
Okay,
So
so we could have them pull it every day, and we would just say,
Yeah.
okay, today we want you to test it.
Yeah. So, or we can pull it and we can send it out, whatever day we want to do.
I mean, they
Yeah,
pay for it.
okay.
I'm just saying we pick and choose
Yeah.
what day we have them do it, not them.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
We can
I
talk
have
more
no
to
problem.
Brian about it tomorrow. I think
Okay.
that it's a suggestion.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I'm just saying there's the ability to
Yeah.
game it that way, the way we're doing it.
All right, so I think we got a pretty good idea what caused it, and we got an idea of how to fix it. Is that correct?
We will know more tomorrow after we talk to Brian, and I do imagine Brian will actually ask us to sample either every day or more frequently just to get more information on what is coming to us at this point in time, and we'll go from there, I guess. But he seems to he's not surprised, so that gives me a little bit more relief in this process. So. Yeah, we'll talk to him tomorrow, and we'll see what he has to say and go from there. But we do have a plan, a short-term plan right now to get the bags running as soon as our polymer comes in to try to thin our sludge. And like I said, I talked to Jack Jones from Suez. He said he's seen this before. He said it's not fouling up the membranes like the old membranes were. Those were covered with fibers and years of hair and all kinds of other stuff that really you can't get out. He said, this is just a coating. He says, I know what you're talking about. He said, as soon as you get your solids down and you get them through a good clean, he said they'll be right back to normal.
So it's a biofilm that's on those membranes that's backing everything up.
Yeah. He said, it's almost like, covering your hand, your mouth with your hand. As soon as you move that, they'll be able to breathe again.
That's what the chlorine does when you clean them.
Yep.
Gets all the biofilm off there, and then those membranes can flow again. I get that.
Yep. And I will do a 24-hour just clean water aeration, so that way it can knock some of the heavier stuff off. So that way the sodium hypochlorite can work better for the membranes, so we can get in deeper. So I told that to Jack Jones, and he said that was a good idea as well. So that's our plan.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody got any other questions?
Thanks, Brad.
Yep, no problem.
Thank you, Brad. Talk to you tomorrow.
Yep.
So
Okay.
I guess we'll move on to the Parks and Rec Board.
That meeting, we haven't had a meeting yet. It kind of doesn't coincide well, I guess.
Okay.
This coming Wednesday is our first Park and Recs meeting for the year. So I'll have a report at the next meeting.
All right. I guess we can roll into, for goals for this year.
Right. So what I did, Mr. Chairman, is I put in what the goals were last year, which I think it helps everybody have a focus point. The EPA has sent out a new listing of metrics for the water department. This year was our first year to submit those, so you'll probably see a change in the metric reports that I send out based on what the state is looking for now, EPA is looking for. So I think these are good goals, but I want what we had last year. I don't know whether you just, if you want to put more precise goals down for each. I mean, it's almost like the goals are a moving target, because like right now we're focused absolutely on our processing and not on our I&I. So that means I&I is going to take a back seat till we get our processes. So I don't know if you want to just put down something like for each one of those operating efficiently or something to that effect. I know that's a big basket, you know, that it could be anything, but if we put specifics down, I think when we do run across these issues, you know, like especially like
right. So we got to stay more
Wouldn't
flexible.
I was gonna say, wouldn't we want something specific though, so that at the end of the year we can evaluate and see whether or not we hit that goal?
Well, Mayor, I am really okay with being more specific, but let me use the example of the Rules Committee for the employee handbook. Because of everything that happened and everything that went on last year, we were unable to accomplish that goal. Do I see that as a failure? No, I do not. I see that as other things got in the way. I would prefer to have a goal that is obtainable to be successful, as opposed to a goal that is not.
And I'm with that. And, you know, even if you don't attain it, if you're working towards it, when I look at our last year, you know, we had a goal of water lines. Mm-hmm. Well, that's always an ongoing goal. We've got that problem. It's going to be a goal for a decade to come or more. But okay, wouldn't it make more sense to get something specific down there for that project, or, you know, for cemeteries, for the kind of like Rules is doing for the lot review, you know, get something specific that we can work towards. And then if it doesn't get done, it doesn't get done, but we can evaluate why. But, you know, just something specific so that we have something to work towards. That's the purpose of the goal.
Yeah. So
okay, then, Mr. Chairperson, may I suggest that in your packet, you will find a couple-page document of all the projects that we're proposing for this year.
Right, I have that.
May I propose that those projects be the goals that be entered underneath for the 2021 goals?
What about the basin enlargement? For the EQ basin to get that larger, so that if there is another sort of overflow, maybe that would mitigate that.
Correct. And once we can do that, we can prioritize, and staff has prioritized all of their projects. It's just not reflected on this proposed project. But what I'd like to say is that we use this list of proposed projects as our goals for 2021. And then we can put them in the order of importance.
It seemed to me there was a lack of I&I mitigation on there. And to me, from what I've been hearing the entire time I've lived here, is that I&I is the biggest problem we have with the EPA, right? You know, for the last 2 decades. And I didn't really see much on here. I know we did the smoke testing. Mm-hmm. And I know years ago we did like an inventory of storm structures. And I was told that we did a study of manholes as to which ones were leaking the worst, but I don't see anything on here as far as efforts to identify the biggest sources and attempt to mitigate them.
Okay, one of the things that the EPA had did in when we did our last permit was said that we had to hire an engineering firm to help us move forward with our projects. We have taken all those projects that we did to what you just said, Rick, that for the smoke testing, the location of all the manholes and et cetera. And we are trying to formulate a strategy to go forward. We did last year do some, what I call storm line installation or stormwater I&I. We did do a project over on Gordon Street. So what I am looking for is that, you know, we do have the funds to do it. We just need to get a focus on how we go forward. So I agree with you. I think I should stay on there. I'm not saying to take it off. I'm just saying right now a project hasn't been identified.
Right, I guess that's the project that I'm not seeing that I would really like to see
And-
is a means of identifying the biggest sources of the I&I, which we've been doing, but we really still haven't identified them or come up with a project to mitigate them. That's my concern.
Right, and I agree with you. And what I would like to see is a 5-year capital improvement plan for storms. And we can do that once all of the smoke testing information and et cetera is completed. And then we can put in a 5-year plan that we would like to see, and then bring it to council and see what council would like to see.
So
And
then
if
for
it is-
I&I,
Right, and that is in line with what the EPA has requested from us.
well, I guess, yeah, I mean, you know, Rick's asking for the goal on I&I, and Terry, you and I had this conversation on Friday then as well about I&I and where are we spending the money on it, because there wasn't projects on there. In that case, would the development of a 5-year capital improvement plan for I&I reduction be a good goal for this year, so that we could not only have that as a goal, but that would actually establish I&I goals for the next 5 years by doing that capital improvement plan?
Yes, I could say that could be our I&I goal for this year, is to get all of that information reviewed, looked at, and establish that capital plan going forward. Yes, I say that could be the I&I reduction goal for 2021. Definitely. We have to plan. That's the most important thing to me, is that we have plans in place to what we're going to do when we're going to do it. Otherwise, we have did really good these last 2 years, and I would like to continue forward on improving as much as we can. I mean, to Mr. Foreman's point, a lot of testing, a lot of smoke testing was done. A lot of inventorying was done, but nobody ever put a plan together to go forward, which meant that all of that data was so old, it was no longer usable, and we had to redo it again. So I do believe that evaluating the information that we collected this in 2020 and putting together a 5-year capital plan for 2021 is the way to go for I&I. Yes.
And I don't think
Let's-
that the
let's take-
stormwater structure inventory is too old to use either, because nothing's changed much since then. I know that an engineering firm was hired to, you know, identify all the stormwater structures in the town. I believe it was before you were here, Terry.
Yes.
And-
so, Mr. Foreman.
And you know, mesh that with the smoke testing and the manhole testing, and now let's take it to an engineering firm and say, you know, where do we begin? To me,
And they have,
And-
they have that information, and they're working on that.
And I was going to say, because Terry, we talked on Friday, and we were talking about, we were trying to spend like $35,000 a year on I&I stuff. Is it something that we could not only say a goal this year is to not only work on the 5-year capital improvement plan, but get one project for I&I reduction somewhere in the neighborhood of you know, $15,000 to $20,000 of improvements, if not up to that 35 we were shooting to go for? Could we add that as a potential goal this year as well, the plan plus a project, so that we get the something in the ground to work towards that?
I would be good with that. I don't want to speak for the team. Again, I think that I asked about the 35,000. That was before EPA said that as long as we put an engineer on board to help us through this process, there was no dollar amount assigned to it. But we do have funds in a separate amount that we can use them for. So I will put something together. We have a couple of more. This is only the first reading on the budget this week. So I will put something together with the team and come back to you for the next council meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we can move on to the water treatment plant we have those projects also for the water treatment plant.
Right,
We'll
correct,
refer to that. Brine tank and all that sort of stuff.
correct.
There was a note in the budget document that was sent and had something to do with there would be a budget deficit that could be made up by not doing projects for the water treatment plant.
So what I was saying there, Wade, was based on just revenues to appropriations for the year, that area of the water treatment, at least on paper at the moment, has a on paper deficit. Obviously, if revenues increase a little bit, we have other funds, because I don't know if it wasn't real clear on some of the stuff. We might be able to use some of the improvement funds for that to make up for that. But one option to reduce a deficit would be to look at some of the projects, and water had some of them coming out of the improvement fund. There was still, we're still looking at $148,000 worth of projects with an $11,000 deficit. One of those projects, one $30,000 project, was contingent upon being able to complete a street paving project at the same time.
Right.
So if one of those doesn't occur, then all of a sudden we don't have a deficit anymore.
Okay.
But I wanted to talk out to the budget, Mr. Committee Person, Chairperson. I wanted to talk a little bit about what would happen with the OPWCs if we get one funded, if we don't get one funded, if we get them both funded, and et cetera. I think that will help a little bit with the budget.
Okay. So I guess we'll go to, projects with the water lines. That was part of the water projects, and then streets, which is paving.
That's correct.
And then,
and just to note, those paving projects there are all in addition to what was submitted to OPWC.
okay. And then the
On the
cemetery
Support
project
vehicle for projects.
I'm sorry, Mr. Foreman?
On the support vehicle for projects,
Yes.
I see the entire thing's budgeted in this year. Wouldn't it make sense to finance that over 5 and split it up over 5 versus putting the whole thing in 1 year?
It would make sense to do that if it wasn't running. The 75,000, as you see there, Brian has been working with us to come to maybe a used vehicle at a lower price. But at this point in time, the support work truck is not working. It hasn't been. He's been jumping it to start it and then leaving it run. So we do have a real issue.
Would that be the red Dodge?
That is correct, sir.
Yeah, that was, I knew that one was on its last legs, and the cheapest time to own a vehicle is the first 5 years, as we discussed the last time. I don't know why we wouldn't just, look at getting a new one on order, financing it over 5 years, and saving ourselves some money.
Correct.
All right. Then we got with the cemeteries is the stained glass repair and mausoleum stuff. And then the pool.
And we had the land and buildings. I think one of the things that we also have to remember is that you're seeing categories that you probably haven't seen before because they have been neglected. For instance, we have a land and buildings there this year. That's because we need to do some preventive maintenance, such as, painting the exterior and fixing leaky roofs. You all know leaky roofs lead to more money the longer you let them go. So you are seeing some projects. Now, if we go to the cemetery projects, number one, so we're saying $40,000. This is for the stained glass that was broken. So is that what I call, because, we have to balance these, based on what I call critical characteristics. This could probably be fixed with plexiglass. Would it look pretty? No, but it isn't fixed. The roof has been patched. Will it get it through this year? Yeah, we'll probably get through this year. But those are just things that we have been talking about that need to happen. Obviously, we may have an issue trying to let them happen this year, make them happen this year. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. We can prioritize these projects, I suppose, is what we need to do. And I suppose that would be it. the availability of funds and I guess manpower, and that would be part of your discretion, I would say.
That is exactly what it is. Yes.
Okay, so anything else? Any old business?
So just to be clear, then we're gonna take and make the goals. We're going to add the I&I to the goals, and then based on these proposed projects, whichever ones become funded through the budget are the ones that we're going to make the goals for the year, so that we have something to work towards. Correct?
That would be my suggestion. And Mr. Cosgrave, you and Mr. Foreman, are you both agreeable to that? I mean, what we can get funded are the ones that'll become our goals then.
Yeah, that makes pretty much common sense, I'd say.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Thank you.
All right, anything else? Anybody got anything else under new business?
Mr. Mayor, when are you going to go over your budget thing? Your 2021 budget overview? Is that this meeting or council?
No, that would be council and finance. We just got it out there. We got to make sure we get time for safety as well, and we're getting to 7 o'clock.
Yeah, so I'm for, if we don't have anything else on this committee, then I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Foreman makes a motion to adjourn.
Yeah, I'll second that. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, we'll adjourn 6:56.
Thank you.
6:56. All right. We'll just keep everything streaming and recording, so can flip right over. Safety, I don't think has much of an agenda. Bob, are you on?
I am on.
All right.
Okay.
You can take it away.
All right. 6:57, we'll begin our safety committee meeting. Start out with roll call.
Hankinson,
Present.
Hamilton,
Present.
and McCreary's absent, right?
Correct.
Right. The Curie is excused.
Okay. We got the mayor and the VA, fiscal officer, police chief there.
Yes, sir.
Yep, he's on.
All right. And all the other council members?
I believe so.
Yes,
sir.
Bob, I'm here.
Yep.
All right. Other than Brandy. All right. Approval of minutes, November 23rd. I looked over them. I didn't see anything.
Yeah, I didn't see anything.
I'll make a motion.
All
to
right.
approve the minutes as printed or written in.
All right, I'll second that. We'll do the roll call and approval of minutes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Hankinson,
Yes. All right. Visitors, other than our council people, we don't have any other ones. Do you have anything? Anybody send in, Mayor?
Nope. I got nothing.
Okay. All right. We'll go to goals 2021. Let's see.
The goals before that, Mr. Hankinson, below the established goals, those are the last year's goals, of course. I don't need to point that out. I don't know if we want to keep them the same or if we'd like to change them.
All right. Well, let's look at them, then we'll see. 0 workplace accidents. I guess we will leave that on there. That way, if something happens, you bring it up to us, and that way we can work on it. Is that all right, Mike?
Yep.
That's fine with me.
How about the repair and missing of worn traffic signs?
I believe that's going to be an ongoing thing throughout the year. We just have equipped the old firehouse with one of the older computers. And Peg will be tracking those signs on the computers as she, in an Excel spreadsheet as she does them. And that's a report then on each safety committee meeting we'll have for the safety committee so they can see what's being done.
I guess since we're already on that and you got a program in place on that, is there a reason that we need to keep that on the goals then?
No, well,
I think we ought to keep it on, Bob, just so we don't forget it.
I was gonna say we've got a program, but this way now that it's going, we can at least
Have a report.
I mean, I like Mike's idea of leaving it on there so that we can keep on top of it, because that's one of those things that I think is easy to accidentally forget about when we get real busy.
I agree.
So that if we keep it on there, it's something that I know Terry will go over with the team, during their meetings to make sure we at least get a couple done here and there and not accidentally forget about it.
Right. Because Peg does have a process, and she's divided the village into quarters. Unless there's something like the chief sometimes will get a hold of me and say, hey, Terry, somebody knocked this sign down, usually a stop sign, then we'll go right away and get that stop sign put up. But other than that, we'll probably cover the village. She's got it like in quadrants. So yeah, I think it's good to leave it on personally.
Okay. All right. Well, I didn't know since you already had a, some kind of program in place. I thought, but fine, leave it on.
Thank you.
Monitor streetlight east, with A and AEP.
This is my opinion on this one, is that we do have a process in place that works pretty well. We could probably take this one off.
Yeah,
that's fine.
I think I was gonna say
if anybody has a problem, go ahead, Mayor.
Yeah, I was gonna say when we put that on here initially, we didn't have a process in place, and then I think a year and a half ago, a process got in place, and then we left it on last year to make sure that process worked, and I think it's working fairly well.
I think it is. I don't see too many lights out anymore.
But say I haven't noticed as many, just like Bob said.
Okay.
It's a team effort because the chief and his staff will report them out. And also when the guys come in, like this time of year when it's dark, they report it out too. So it's a team effort. And I think to the mayor's point, this process is really, really working well. So I say we take it off.
Okay. 0 fatal accidents.
That would be the chiefs.
Well, obviously, that's our goal is to not have fatal accidents. We're very fortunate that we usually don't. We have had one, which I think everybody's aware of, at Holder and East Market. Again, we're working the areas that we get a lot of complaints, trying to control the speed. A good percentage of fatalities involve either pedestrians or excessive speed. So those are the areas that we are monitoring, and hopefully we'll have no further fatalities through the end of the year.
Do you want to keep it on, Chief?
We can. I like the fact that everybody looks at that every meeting and knows that that's something that all of us should be striving for, whether it's talking to somebody that has a traffic complaint or whatever. That's one of the reasons it's so important that, we document anytime we have somebody, even in passing, that talks about a problem area that needs, an extra look.
Hey, Chief, to add some granularity to this goal, is there something, because to some degree there's stuff we can do, and then to some degree there's stuff that we can't do. I mean, I don't know if there's anything we could have done to prevent that fatal accident at Holder and Market.
No, and that's very true.
So sometimes it's beyond our control, but is there a couple of things, and you don't have to, name them right now, but maybe one or two things that we should look at through the year that we could do to help control what we can control in reducing it, whether it's trees creating a blind spot at a corner or, looking at doing something else just so that we don't have this zero fatal accidents goal, but working towards it. Is there something we can do to help achieve that or maintain it, knowing that, of course, we can't, sometimes it's beyond our control, but, if we can do something that that is within our control to help maintain or to help achieve that goal. Should we just list something? And again, I'm putting you on the spot, so I'm not asking you to come up with anything right now, but it's just a thought of, should we put an action item there, basically?
Well, we can, and one of the things is already above with the replace, repair, missing, worn traffic signage. People that travel through town that are not from here, if you have a stop sign down, if you have a directional sign that's not correct, you can create that environment where the likelihood of injuries out of a crash or higher. So, that's important. One of the things that we had lined up this year, and actually was supposed to start last year, but the we used to do a safety class for the kids, the elementary kids, about crossing the street, riding their bikes, whatever. Because of the way school is being enacted right now, it's just not something that we can get done. A second part of that was we had already worked out with the highway patrol that they were going to bring their film crew, and we were going to do a program for the kids to watch involving getting on and off buses. And although it would be directed at their level, a part of it would be something to be used as a reminder for adults also that we need to be aware when we're in a school zone. So there's quite a bit of things out there that we had looked at. Unfortunately, we've all been in this environment where trying to have face-to-face or, get together, get projects done has been a little tough. We were able to get one project done, and I think all of you got to see that. It was an anti-drunk driving video that we were a part of, that was shown at all the movie theaters, or was to be shown at all the movie theaters, the drive-ins. And of course, by the time that got released and we started to move forward with that, then, we ran into the issue that we have that there's no movie theaters to show it in. But they've got that online. They've used that quite a bit. So we've been very proactive trying to get that word out there on safety goals and things people can do to make themselves safe. And I think as we return more to normalcy, we'll see an ability to reach out and do more things that'll hopefully keep that number close to or at zero.
Okay.
All right, we'll leave that on there. Does anybody else have anything that they want to put on for goals?
Could I suggest that maybe we add, because it seems to be a recurring issue and it's getting better, but it's not quite where I think any of us want it, but look at our semi-truck traffic. We keep getting up, we got the signs up on Water Street and they're getting a lot better down there. But I still see them occasionally turning off of Main Street onto Cliff. Or I called Terry one day, they're turning down Oak and then turning down Washington Street because that's the way their GPS takes them to get out onto Water Street to get back to 158 to go north, which was quite interesting watching a semi try to make that turn from Oak Street onto Washington. So, there are still a few areas, some of them might just need better no through truck signs. But it seems to be a recurring issue the past year and a half we've had. And so maybe if we put it on as a goal and we can take a little bit more of a systematic look at some of the areas and where we're having issues and see what we can do, would give us a fourth goal and something that I think we could achieve within a year.
So you're kind of looking at maybe put that on there so we can make up a list of where people see trucks driving. We can put at the end of the street no through truck signs. Is that what you're talking about?
Just look and make sure that our ordinances on, don't allow semi-traffic where we don't want them, and that we have signs posted. Make sure the signs going back to the other goal are not worn and easily visible. Something like that. Because I started walking with Martha, and we've been walking at about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. It's amazing the things you see and notice at 6 a.m. that people are trying to get away with.
I believe it.
I can believe that too. Mayor.
Yeah.
At the two bad streets, Oak and Water Street, where they turn down there by the fire department, is there a sign on there that points for like 158 straight ahead yet, or not?
At Oak and Washington?
Water Street. So they wouldn't turn down there and try and get across the bridge again, or wound up trying to get around the fire department.
No, there's no. I mean, if you're asking for road signs to get out to the state routes, not on the residential streets. Though, as a semi-traffic goal, that could be something we could look at. Would it make sense to put a sign somewhere along there that tells them how to get to 256 and 158?
That'd be something the state would have to supply, wouldn't it?
No, in the village, we would do it.
Oh,
yep,
okay.
We can do it.
Just thinking. All right.
All right. I had read something there where, I think it was the last meeting, they talked about the truck parking there on, down by the paper mill. I guess that lot across the street from the paper mill, how much of that is Baltimore do we have control over?
Jeff, I have asked Jeff if we could do a survey on that property. The front of the lot, all across the front, which is almost now barren after much work last year, does belong to the village. Behind that is the Greif Brothers and the mill. To get to the Greif Brothers and the mill property, you do have to go across the Village of Baltimore property.
Okay. And I guess the whole thing I'm wondering, they had talked about truck drivers didn't have any place to park and stuff. Mm-hmm. I went past there the other day, and the whole back lot's full of junk trailers, and then they had a bunch of dumpsters down the west side of it, taking up a lot of space in there. Could that be causing some of the parking problems for those truck drivers?
Well, in the back where you see those trailers, those do not belong to the mill. Those belong to Greif Brothers. I've asked them to move them. The chief and I have had a conversation about this. We may, and one time I believe, chief, tell me if I'm wrong, we marked them so they knew which ones they were.
Yes.
So I think it's just come back and talk to them more. The dumpsters are from the paper mill, and Jim had asked if he could set them there because they didn't have any room. I didn't see an issue with it. There is still plenty of room there to park the trucks, because I think we need to understand that not all of the truck traffic that we think is causing the issue is coming from the mill. A lot of it, just as much as coming from the Creative Foods.
Okay.
And And I'll say I did walk down there during the week, occasionally walk at lunch, and it was busy and there were trucks everywhere, but none of them were in the street. There were a number in that lot, and I think Terry, that Greif was looking at some sort of sign that could be put up as well to help with the staging.
When we met with Jim, who is the plant manager, and B3, when we started the OPWC project, that was a possible item that was discussed. Now they are pretty open to making changes or doing whatever it takes to be a good neighbor. And I can reach back out to Jim and ask him what he thinks. I don't see it as, I haven't seen the mill trucks as an issue. Unless the chief has seen something that I haven't seen. When I've asked the chief to go down there, the trucks were going to Creative Foods or waiting on Creative Foods. It is more of a Creative Foods issue than a mill issue. Is that right, Chief?
Yes, that is correct.
So I will continue to follow up. I will send our friends at Creative Foods another email to say we need to, we need to do something with the way the trucks are coming in and out of. Again, the school has donated some railing just so when the guys can get out there to get it put up so they can't park along the side, but that still doesn't solve the issue. That just keeps them from not parking on the street. So I'll try to see if I can come up with a workable process with both of our industries.
Okay. Okay, reports, village administrator.
I'd like to talk a little bit about the incident that took place on January 2nd, 3rd in regarding the gas line that was hit. I want everyone to know that I have been following up religiously with the NiSource, NiSource, which is the company that the gas company had used to communicate with me during this, and also who is in charge of sending the people out to mark the lines. I had sent I did an internal investigation into this incident, and the result of my internal investigation along with staff is that the gas line was incorrectly marked. So, so I had sent off to this representative on November 6th, my findings. I said, we have completed our internal investigation. We believe that it was because the gas line was mismarked. Could you please confirm from your investigation? So on the 7th, she replied back and said, oh, well, they're going to have a meeting about this early next week. Can you just reach out to me midweek? Well, I gave her a little more than midweek and waited until the 21st and reached out to her again and said, I still have not seen your email. Could you please update me as to what your internal findings were? And her email back to me was, she has to check with legal before she can give me any more information. So I still stand by our incident report, internal incident report, that it was a mismarked gas line. It was the result of that incident that wiped out all the gas service to our residents in that area. Still waiting on a response from them or from their legal team. And then I will continue forward from there depending on what they do supply me or what they don't supply me. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of an update on that.
Okay.
I'm not going to make any, assumptions, but in a municipality that I represent, when the service department says, hey, I need to check with Brad before I can release information to the public, that usually means we may have done something wrong. So, we'll see what they say.
I'll keep following up and give you the latest update as soon as I get it, or if I don't get it, we'll see where we're going to go from here. So that's all I have.
Okay. Police chief.
We have 3 people that we're putting through the background process right now. Actually, that's two now. We have one that completed. The mayor was kind enough to come to the police department and get him sworn in, and he is coming in every other week for 8 hours to get his training in. He does have some prior experience, so we hope that'll be a quick uptake for us. One of the other two has prior experience, and the same with them. We do have one that is pretty much right out of the police academy, but our background tells us that he was tops in the class and becomes highly recommended by his instructor. So we hope we're going to get them on board. Two of those people are going to be totally volunteer for right now. Well, all three actually, but two of them have expressed that they basically want to come here and maybe try to get a couple years in so they can get some experience to use on a resume to move forward. Car one's speaker assembly that's mounted on the push bar has decided it doesn't want to work anymore. And we have a technician coming Thursday to check to make sure that it is the speaker, not the wiring harness. So we will need to get that repaired. We've had two officers out in the last 16 days with COVID. So we've been kind of really behind the 8 ball. Still have one officer that's been told by his family physician not to come in and work until he can get the shot or shots. And as you may or may not know, the good governor has decided that law enforcement are not first responders, and therefore they should not get the shots like the fire department and everyone else has got. So that certainly complicated matters for us somewhat. So for right now, we're just living with the universal precautions. It's really about all we can do at this point, and go from there. So COVID has affected a lot of the operational things that we would like to do, as I spoke about a little earlier. But all in all, we're still coming in every day and trying to move forward.
Anybody got any questions for the chief? All right.
Yeah.
Anybody have anything else for safety? All right. Our next meeting is February 22nd, right after service, or 6:45. So it is 7:22. Safety will be adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
All right. We'll stop the recording and the streaming for a few minutes. Everyone can go get a quick break.